Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti channel from Swami Nikhilananda. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading Brahman, to my worshipful Gurudev, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji Maharaj, to Ram Parivar, all sages and saints, and to each of you divine soul watching today's satsang. We are covering the holy scripture, Mysticism of Ramayana. Commentaries by my Gurudev, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So currently we are discussing the marriage ceremony of Lord Shiva with Uma Devi, Parvati Devi. So let's get started. With her mind immersed in the beauty of her beloved, Uma Devi approached Shiva with great shyness. Then all the sacraments prescribed by tradition were performed by the great sages. At the conclusion of the marriage sacrament, Vedic mantras were chanted and gods shouted, "Glory, glory to Shiva." Various divine musical instruments began to play, and a shower of heavenly flowers rained over Shiva and Uma. There was great rejoicing everywhere in the world. After the conclusion of this grand marriage festivity, all members of the bride and groom's parties returned to their respective abode of Shiva and Uma. They retired to dwell in Kailash. As the joy-filled days passed, the divine couple had a son known as Kartikeya, the son whose birth was desired by gods when they prompted the marriage. When Kartikeya was only few months old, he waged war against Tarkasur and destroyed that demon once and for all. So that objective was fully completed. And this marriage ceremony of Shiva and Parvati and the procession, there is a big festival, Mahashivratri. Many of you may already know this, is greatly celebrated, and people even today in Nepal and India and many places, they take out wedding processions of Lord Shiva going to get married to Uma Devi or Parvati Devi. So none of the colorful and sometimes amusing accounts of the marriage of Shiva and Uma are to be taken literally. So let's try to understand the deeper meaning of this marriage and the mystical impact. So for Shiva and Uma were not ordinary human beings, and their marriage was certainly not an ordinary marriage. Thus all these different things happening there. All descriptions of the marriages are intended to convey the divine festivity that unfolds in human consciousness when the intellect becomes intuitive and the soul discovers its identity with the absolute. And that's the meaning. The worldly intellect has to be converted into intuitive intellect or prajna, and then only it can be united with the absolute or the soul in order to get to connect with God or understand what God realization means. Such a festivity can never be adequately described in human language because it transcends time and space. The highly amusing descriptions of the marriage procession with the parties of Shiva, Brahma and Vishnu marching exuberantly towards Uma's palace in the Himalayas have many important implications for spiritual life. In the course of one's evolution, an aspirant encounters three stages which follow in sequence. The first is a stage of Vairagya or dispassion. As Vairagya or dispassion grows, one is forced to confront the shocking reality of things. One begins to see that everything in this world is not what it seems. The X-ray vision of Vairagya reveals that beneath the thin veil of physical beauty, human beings are nothing but flesh and bones, ghastly skeletons operated by a strange will. Behind the mask of external harmony and friendliness, the deformities of greed, pride, attachment, and hatred lurk. Vairagya strips the world of its vanity and all one sees are the snakes of frustration and the skulls of sorrows. And this stage is important, otherwise, we are blissfully ignorant, and that is not good for our soul. As Vairagya grows, an aspirant realizes that all the transient worldly values he has pursued are masked in illusion, and that all objects are rushing towards their destruction under the grip of death. Eventually, we are all going to that end point, whether we like it or not, ready or not. All people are like herds of sheep perpetually being sent to the butcher house to be slaughtered under the great blade of Yama, unless they attain mukti or self realization. And thus, this project takes on significant importance. This vision brought about by Vairagya is Shiva's marriage party, and it is followed by a vision of immense creativity. The moment one's mind becomes free of illusions, it discovers a perpetual fountain of spiritual inspiration that does not depend in any way on the transient objects of the world. One does not have to wait until the sun rises in a clear blue sky and the clouds have dispersed and the wind blows favorably in order to feel inspired. Rather, he discovers that joy does not come from the external world. It proceeds from within oneself, and that is the essential message here, that we try to find happiness and joy in people, friends, places, etc. But it's really coming from within us. Therefore, the fervor of one's spiritual movement continues uninterrupted at all times. This stage is symbolized by Brahma's party, Brahmaji's. This period of creative unfoldment, because Brahmaji creates, therefore we also create. We go through this unfoldment of the latent qualities of the soul, and that culminates in the Vishnu's party, an experience of absolute purity, harmony, Sattva. That is Vishnu's party. The essential beauty and harmony of the world is perceived everywhere, in everything. Nothing is perceived as ugly or hateful. One experiences only the essential divinity that underlines all names and forms. So these are the stages of a spiritual aspirant as he progresses in his spiritual journey. So from Shiva to Brahma to Vishnu. While the marriage procession was proceeding towards the Himalayas, the city in which Uma awaited Shiva's arrival had undergone a magnificent transformation. So the city, which represents the chitta of a highly purified state, that is the Himalayas within us, had become so uniquely beautiful that its glory surpassed all the glory and majesty of Brahma's creation, rendering Brahma's creation insignificant. So the meaning here is that our heart, when it opens up and it sees the divine darshan, the divine image, that is the best form, ecstatic, and so powerful that it is better than the creation itself. The implication of this description is that Brahma's creation is nothing but experience trapped in the three states of normal consciousness, which are what? Waking, dream, deep sleep. These are the three stages we go through in our daily living. But a spiritual aspirant who has developed vairagya and who is moving towards intuitional knowledge or pragya discovers that he must go beyond the illusions of that creation. The world of time and space, the world of objectivity, the world of repeated births and deaths no longer interests the soul that has turned its gaze towards the absolute. So this is the opportunity for serious sadhaks to introspect and look into the journey and what they are trying to achieve. If they are trying to achieve the absolute, that is the highest goal, liberation, mukti, nirvana, never to come back again in this world process, because you connect and become one with Brahman. So Brahma's creation therefore becomes little. You have no more interest in coming back into it again and again. When the welcoming party first saw Shiva and his attendants, all the children ran away in terror, and only those who are more mature state to welcome him. Mystically, those who have not seasoned their minds with philosophy are children. That is the meaning here. For them, any confrontation with Shiva is terribly frightening. They are always depending upon surface values, external things, looks, which are all external only. Therefore, they are constantly shaken by raga and dvesha, attachment and hatred. Anything that opposes their egoistic concepts is considered shocking or adverse. So we will continue this journey in tomorrow's satsang. I hope you are enjoying these wonderful mystical scriptures and these episodes, and even more, I hope you are enjoying the personal learning that you are deriving from this in how to become a good sadhak and what does each of these things mean. And for this, I do Shashtang pranams to my beloved Gurudev, whose knowledge is transformational. If we apply even a little bit of it, we will be enlightened in this very life. Om Tat Sat.